Hello, everybody. It's great to be with you all today. It's a pleasure to introduce this year's International Peace Hero, the Black Alliance for Peace. Black Alliance for Peace does critically important education and activism on the issues of war and militarism. BAP members provide critical education, analysis, and organizing against the U.S. war agenda globally and the repression being waged on Black and Brown communities locally. Black Alliance for Peace continues the rich tradition of internationalism in the spirit of Paul Robeson, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., and the Black Panther Party. Here today, we have Bilal Mafundi Ali, who is active in the Bay Area chapter of Black Alliance for Peace. He's a longtime peace and justice warrior based in San Francisco. In addition to his work with BAP, Bilal is a healthcare coordinator for Bay Area Community Services. Bilal will speak for a few minutes, and then he will introduce Margaret Kimberley, who will be the main speaker for Black Alliance for Peace. It's great to have you with us, Bilal.
On behalf of the Black Alliance for Peace, we are honored to receive the Mount Diablo Peace and Justice Center's International Hero for Peace Award for 2020. It is always gratifying to receive reconnection from one's peers in this difficult era where international peace and social justice continues to elude that kind of attention that should demand by governments and even by the progressive community. It is also very gratifying that the work and mission of the Black Alliance for Peace is resonating in some corners of the Bay Area. We are appreciative of the International Peace Award and thank Mount Diablo Peace and Justice Center for your recognition of the Black Alliance for Peace and your ongoing commitment working for justice and peace. And I'll just like to leave two quotes of MLK and Fred Hampton. War isn't the absence of peace, war is the absence of justice. Peace isn't the absence of war, peace is the presence of justice. And as our late great martyr Fred Hampton said, peace to you if you're willing to fight for it. So thank you again for this recognition, and we really appreciate it. With that said, I proudly want to present to you my comrade and fellow Black Alliance for Peace member, Margaret Kimberley. Margaret Kimberley is a New York-based writer and activist for peace and justice issues. She has been a columnist for the Black Agenda Report since its inception in 2006. And Margaret serves on the coordinating committee of the Black Alliance for Peace. And as much more than I could say, but would take up the rest of this evening. So I'm gonna have to move on. But I love hearing Margaret. So please welcome Margaret Kimberley.
Greetings to you all. Congratulations to our co-honoree, Mary Taylor. Thank you to Andrew Kadama for his work on this event, to Rick Sterling for that introduction, to Bilal, my comrade at Black Alliance for Peace. On behalf of the Black Alliance for Peace membership and our leadership in the coordinating committee, our national organizer, Jamu Baraka, I wanted to thank the Mount Diablo Peace and Justice Center for choosing to honor BAP at your 12th annual awards ceremony. We understand the importance of solidarity domestically and internationally, and recognition such as this plays an important part in supporting the work of our friends and comrades. I'm really delighted that Black Alliance for Peace is considered an international peace hero. That is how we like to think of ourselves, as people who strive to work for peace, and that is always an heroic effort in a country such as ours. This is a very important moment to affirm the importance of peacemaking. We are always told that peace is an impossibility, and that the very thought of working towards this end is the height of naivete. We're told we should be grown-ups who understand that you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. That is to say that imperialism, state violence, interventions, invasions, proxy wars, and sanctions are an intrinsic right of the American state. And that in the 21st century, people can, with a straight face and without a hint of irony, talk about the Monroe Doctrine and claim that the US has the right to decide who governs Venezuela, or punish Cuba or Nicaragua for daring to have leftist governments, or kidnap the president of Haiti and follow that crime with occupation, which led to a cholera epidemic, and US puppet governments that allow that nation to be a site for sweatshops and resource theft. Black Alliance for Peace is a people-centered, Black-led organization, and we are committed to revitalizing the pro-peace, anti-imperialist positions of the Black radical movement. That is necessary decades after the liberation movement was destroyed through brute force, through COINTELPRO and other state actions, and the ascendance of the neoliberal agenda, which has given us a duopoly comprised of a far-right party and a center-right party. Actually, by past standards, I'm not even sure we have a center-right party anymore. Our work is often complicated, as we've seen in the past year. 2020 was a tumultuous year that began with the pandemic that is still unconquered and a police murder that reverberated around the world. The movement that began after the killing of George Floyd inspired millions of people in this country and around the world. But even that was not simple to respond to. The cry for an end to the modern day police lynch mob was a righteous one, but coming to a consensus which addresses the issues of peace as it should have was not easy. As we said in Black Alliance for Peace statements, quote, "It is a moral and political contradiction to advocate for a kinder and gentler police force in the belly of the empire, while it is unleashing murderous violence around the world against Africans and other colonized people. We will continue making the connections and organizing, despite the confusion being spread by opportunists aligned with white power and the US state," unquote. Making the connections is something we are devoted to doing. We all must be. We live in a country where 60% of discretionary spending is used for the military. It is literally why we cannot have nice things. We cannot have housing for the unhoused, public education, healthcare, or a public infrastructure when so much money is used to make war. That war making impacts us, not just in those ways. If we are not careful, we may find ourselves tacitly or even openly accepting the system just because it is one we see defended and amplified. 2020 was tumultuous for another reason. It was a presidential election year, that quadrennial event which spits out defenders of imperialism and neoliberalism, but that also takes up the oxygen in the room, as the saying goes, and leads people like ourselves to think that they have but one option, and that is to choose an alleged lesser evil. Joe Biden has been president since January 20th, and on January 22nd, it was announced that the US deployments in Syria will not only continue, but increase. This particular crime began in 2011 during the Barack Obama administration, continued under Donald Trump, and now continues under Joe Biden. Now, I know that Syria is an issue of contention among those of us who generally agree about other issues, other foreign policy issues. But I hope we can all agree that the US has no right to fund and arm jihadists to destroy another country. Regardless of our opinions about that government, we should agree that the US has no right to steal Syria's oil, which it is doing, and imposing sanctions, war by other means, which deprive Syrians of medical care and food. I add that neither the American people nor Congress had any say in these deployments in Syria. There was no vote in Congress or among the people that gave permission for this crime to be committed against millions of people. That's what we're up against now, a system which is committed to continuing violence and chaos around the world, doing so in our names, and preventing anyone who opposes these actions from having attention in the corporate media, running for office, or having their voice heard in the establishment narrative. That is why it is so important that we've all chosen to be together on this day. Our co-honoree, Mary Taylor, spoke about her work with Black Lives Matter in your area. But I reiterate that her work cannot be separated from the work of Black Alliance for Peace. It is unfortunate that so many people think it's possible to separate the domestic from the international. It is not. We cannot have justice in this country while our government commits injustice around the world. Police murder, mass incarceration, the poverty draft, and the public bailout of defense contractors all work together. One of the issues that Black Alliance for Peace is committed to addressing is that of the militarization of law enforcement across this nation. The 1033 program allows the Defense Department to give surplus military equipment to local police departments. Big cities and small towns alike have armored vehicles and other equipment that were once seen only on battlefields. But this system sees our communities as battlefields too. We can't ask Congress to cut military spending for the 800 bases located around the world, and the US Africa Command, AFRICOM, and all other military commands, while giving the go-ahead for state violence to be perpetrated here. We have chosen a calling which is not easy. We are or should all be opposed to imperialism, neoliberalism, and to the idea of American exceptionalism, an idea which gives otherwise intelligent people the ability to think that their government has the right to do what it wants to whomever it wants around the world. I want to raise another issue which may not immediately be seen as one which we should champion, but it is definitely connected to our work. In the past week, in the past couple of days, many individuals and organizations that I know of and support have been kicked off of social media. This is proof that our work is important. No one would bother getting rid of their Facebook accounts or kicking them off of Twitter if they weren't being effective. This is a dangerous moment for us. We have a means of, particular means of communication, which have now become a necessity, which are in private hands, which can decide who can and cannot have a voice in the public sphere. However we feel about Donald Trump or Steve Bannon being platformed, we have to find a way to speak to the fact that everyone should have the right to be heard, and that these platforms ought to be public utilities that are regulated by the government. And until that happens, we can have the Atlantic Council, which is NATO, telling Facebook who should and should not be allowed to speak out. So that's just food for thought for all of us at this moment. So I urge you all, if you've not done so already, to check out our website, blackallianceforpeace.com. We're on Facebook, of course, for now, anyway. We're on Facebook, on Twitter at Blacks for Peace, number 4, Blacks for Peace. And I hope you become familiar with our work and support us in our efforts. We go to the people for support. We don't have foundations supporting us. So we go to our compatriots for that. But I'm going to wrap up by thanking you all again for this honor on behalf of Bilal Ali and all of Black Alliance for Peace. Thank you so much.